covered this, well, you were out last week, but we covered the Stormy Daniels testimony. She basically established motive. That's pretty much all she did. Then it got to the big, so the first part of the trial, so there's 3 instances. There's 34 counts, but there's 3 instances. One is paying off the doorman, which ended up being a bogus story, but they still did it to hide it from the campaign, which was illegal. The second one was Karen McDougal, who he had an affair with for like 9 or 10 months, something like that. And David Pecker showed up, and he was the guy from AMI who worked at the National Enquirer, and he bought and killed those stories. And he bought and killed he didn't buy the Stormy Daniels one, but he did take it and kill it for him. But he testified to all that. So we know pretty much he was enough to prove that the first 2, yeah, that's what we were doing. And he was pretty sure it was for the campaign. The rest of Trump's, his bookkeeper came up, or his assistant came up, his controller, I think, came up. They all kind of testified similarly. Hope Hicks, who was his assistant, came up, testified similarly, and she cried and stuff. And then Stormy Daniels didn't really know what his motive was for, what it was for the campaign. She just established that it was pretty salacious and he had a motive to hide it. So basically that's what we're trying to nail down. Well, the big guy that's going to nail all this and kind of tie it up with a nice bow, because it's circumstantially, he's guilty. You can say without a reasonable doubt at this point he's guilty, at least of the first 2, for sure. For the Stormy Daniels one, kind of iffy, but Michael Cohen shows up and he testifies and he basically says, yep, all about the campaign. We're going to look at this. Lawrence O'Donnell from MSNBC, he was there at the trial for most of it, so he's going to talk a little bit about this.
Lawrence O'Donnell, he's been in the court overflow room. Lawrence, you've been there, it feels like every day. What struck you today about Michael Cohen on the stand?
Well, Michael Cohen delivered what the prosecution needed him to deliver, including the phrase false business record. He was asked early in his testimony this morning, when going through the invoices for his services that he did not provide, whether those were false records. He said they were, and more importantly, the records created by the Trump organization paying him, he said, were false business records, including the check stubs that came along with each one of those signed checks signed by Donald Trump. And he also stressed in his testimony, as the DA brought out, that the creation of the false business records was a Trump organization idea, which is to say, Michael Cohen just expected to get one of these $35,000 checks every month. He wasn't getting them, and he was told, send us an invoice. Send us an invoice so that we can put in for the payment. So Michael Cohen's sending of the invoice is what generates the false business records. And it wasn't Michael Cohen's idea to send those invoices and generate any of those false business records. But he was taken through that very carefully, establishing the exact elements that the crime requires to be filled. And then later, toward the end of the testimony, when he was asked, why did you pay Stormy Daniels? And he said it was to help the campaign. That was the only reason. And if Donald Trump were not a candidate, he absolutely would not have paid.
So that's it. That's all the elements of the crime. And they've got paperwork to show it. So now, I mean, and it's all corroborated by everybody else. So it's all pretty much established. So now the defense is kind of struggling because it's like, I don't know what you do against a mountain of evidence. You can try and make it look like Cohen lied, but it's backed up by what everybody else said. So, it does, and he just really tying it together. It's not like there wasn't enough without him. It's just, this really nails the coffin shut. So the defense was kind of scrambling. So they went on their little campaign to do their cross-exam, and the cross-exam, it got weird, folks. It got weird really quick. And I'm going to jump in, and this is CNN, and they're going to talk about, because my father was a criminal lawyer for 33 years. I'm an ex-cop. I've been to trials a bunch of times. This is the weirdest thing. I've never seen this or heard of this before, but this is what happened during the cross-examination.
We now see the cross-examination of Michael Cohen is underway, and it's very significant because it started very tough. Todd Blanche, the Trump attorney, going after Michael Cohen right away from the beginning, asking about things that Michael Cohen posted on TikTok and Twitter.
Remarkable exchange. So the first thing Todd Blanche asked Michael Cohen is, you and I have never met. Michael Cohen said, correct, we've never met. Blanche then asked, you went on TikTok and called me, and I'm quoting here, you went on TikTok and called me a crying little shit. At that point, there was an objection. The lawyers went to the sidebar, and the judge upheld the objection. And I think the reason why is Michael Cohen's feelings towards the lawyer are really irrelevant. And so at that objection...
Who fucking cares?
I feel like I have to massage my eyebrows because of the faces I can't help but make, because it's so weird.
It's almost like they're not playing to the jury; they're playing to Trump. I guess at this point their client's pretty much cooked. So what do you do? All he can do right now is try to create some doubt, and hopefully, maybe one of the 12 jurors decides to go not guilty, and they get a hung trial. That's about all they can get. And even then, they'll just retry it pretty quickly. So that's all they're trying for right now. But I don't know. He's trying to establish that Michael Cohen has it out for Trump, which is kind of stupid because the prosecution's already said that. Because Cohen went to prison for Trump. And they're going to sit there, oh, well, you're a liar, and you lied about this, and you lied about that. Well, yeah, on behalf of Donald Trump, for the benefit of Donald Trump, at the instruction of Donald Trump, who was my boss at the time. So, the cross-exam just didn't hit anything. They didn't establish anything. And what are you going to...
unless the whole point is to, sort of bring up the idea that he lied for Donald Trump, but he lied before, therefore he's not a really reputable witness because he has a history of being a liar, unless we're looping around to that, but there was a mountain of evidence even before him anyway, so
Right. And everybody else testified the same way. So, when you have a bunch of people who aren't really ultra connected, and everybody else who talked about him before said he was an asshole. So we were all prepped for that. He actually wasn't on the stand. He was pretty tame, but and they tried to get him riled up and make him look like a dick and get the jury against him, but it didn't really work. He was pretty well prepped for this, but yeah, not a whole lot else to say. They're cross-examining him today. We'll see if they make I don't know, gold out of hay. I don't know what they're gonna do. There's just a point where your client is so slam dunk guilty. What can you do? And honestly, it wouldn't have worked. But the best argument you could have made was it's not really a crime because they didn't know they were falsifying the business records. You could say that would have been the case. That would have been the argument I'd have gone with. They put it down as a legal expense because they didn't know what else to put it down as. Right? Even though it wasn't really a legal expense. The problem is that they're telling Cohen, send us the invoice that says it's a legal expense when it's not. So they've got 3 or 4 people now colluding to falsify the records. So it's not even a good case, but that's the best you could do. Whoa. That's the one I'd have gone with. But, we'll see.